What's up, guys? This is Joe with McCpicks, breaking down UFC 282. Takes place at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, headlined by Magomed Ankalaev taking on Jan Blachowicz. So, just to reiterate, this video isn't meant to be like an all-inclusive, in-depth breakdown of each fight. More so, just give you guys my thoughts, my pick, who I think is going to win each matchup, and then my best bet on each matchup. Try and find some value on each of the fights and hopefully make some money. Okay, first matchup, Cameron Simon taking on Steven Kozlow. Simon's the big favorite, sitting at about minus 270 area, with Kozlow coming back around plus 225. So not too much fight tape on Kozlow. He's inexperienced, 6 wins. A jiu-jitsu guy, he has all 6 of his wins inside the distance, all 6 being by submission. Like I said, not too much tape on him, but what I did find is that he's definitely green on the feet, kind of uses his striking to close the distance and kind of force his grappling. Definitely has good grappling skills and good jiu-jitsu. He has, like I said, all his wins by submission. Cameron on the other side, um, he's a good striker, definitely the better striker of the two. Has good cardio, pushes the pace. But we did see in his Contender Series debut, he was taken down by a predominant striker and controlled for a period. So that might be, a red flag for him in this matchup. And he comes out of South Africa. He himself is inexperienced, only 6-0. So I'm not sure in terms of the regional scene in South Africa if there are any decent jiu-jitsu guys, but he might not have faced anyone of the caliber in regards to jiu-jitsu of Steven Kozlow. So, but looking at how they win, like I said, Kozlow, all of his wins inside the distance, 100% finish rate, all by submission. And then looking at Simon, he has 5 of his 6 wins inside the distance. So the pick's going to be Simon, but the best bet's going to be under 2.5 rounds, assuming it will be set there. Next up, we have Vincius Salvador taking on Daniel Lacerda. This matchup is, in regards to violence, like an anomaly. So this is a flyweight matchup, but let me talk to you about their finish rates. Well, I'll tell you the line first. So let's see here. Lacerda or De Silva is the underdog. He is currently sitting at around plus 175 with Salvador around minus 205. But listen to these finish stats. So Salvador has 14 wins, 100% finish rate, 13 by knockout, 1 by sub, and he's lost in 3 of his 4. He's lost by finish in 3 of his 4 losses, 2 being by knockout, 1 being by submission. And then taking a look at Lacerda, he has 11 wins, all inside the distance. He mixes it up a little more. He has 5 by knockout, 6 by sub, and he has 4 losses, all inside the distance. So 3 losses by knockout, 1 by sub. So needless to say, it's kind of obvious that this is going to be a violent affair. It's tough to be confident on either side. I actually think that Lacerda is the more skilled fighter all around. In terms of striking, I actually like his striking. And he's very, very aggressive with the jiu-jitsu. Definitely is submission over position. But he just kind of fades very, very quickly. And when he faces adversity, he kind of just gives in. Especially when he's on his back. If he can't get the sub, it just kind of seems like he's just going to accept the ground and pound. And then the other hand, Salvador, like I said, obviously he's dangerous. He's tall for the division. He kind of just wings punches though, and he himself can be finished. So quick breakdown. This one, the pick's going to be Salvador. No confidence in it, but the best bet is definitely going to be the under 1.5, assuming it's going to be set there. Obviously, if it's set at under 2.5, you got to slam that spot. Next, we have TJ Brown taking on Eric Silva. Going to be another quick breakdown here. The line is set at Eric Silva around minus 145, with TJ Brown sitting at plus 125. The pick's going to be Silva here. I like what I saw in his Contender Series debut, but he is older. I believe he's around 35. Let's see how old he is here. Yeah, he's 35 years old, but he's dangerous himself. 9 wins, 7 of 9 inside the distance, and he's lost by submission. TJ Brown just has not been impressive to me at all in the UFC. Obviously, he's faced the better competition compared to Silva, but not impressive at all. I mean, his let's see, he has 2 wins in the UFC. One he arguably lost. I thought he lost against Kai Kamaka. He won a split, but he got submitted by Jordan Griffin, and he just has not looked impressive to me. Um, so the pick's going to be Silva, and the best bet's going to be under 2.5 rounds if it's set at that total. Next up, we have Billy Quarantillo taking on Alexander Hernandez. Let's check the line here. Billy Q is the favorite, currently sitting at minus 165, with Hernandez sitting at plus 140 as the underdog. I guess we'll look at Billy Q first. So, he's a good all-around fighter, but he's super hittable. He can be outclassed sometimes, like when he took on Shane Burgos and Gavin Tucker, just kind of outclassed over 3 rounds. And he can be wild at times. He loses his technicality on the feet. But he has super, super good cardio, really good output. He always pushes a pace, and he has good pressure. He's known for breaking fighters and then finishing them late. And like I said, he's well-rounded. Where Alex Hernandez, on the other hand, doesn't really have the best cardio. He tends to fade as the fight goes on. And he's been finished before later in fights. And I don't know, he's kind of a douche. So I don't really like him. But he has good power. He's explosive. He's super athletic. He has a number of good wins in his record. I mean, knocked out Dariush. He beat OAM. He's dangerous earlier on in rounds, and he's well-rounded, but he tends to fade later on. But overall, my pick's going to be Quarantillo, and the best bet, I would say Quarantillo as a live entry, a live betting entry, maybe after round 1, or maybe take the round 3 prop. I'd imagine it's going to be pretty juicy. Next, we have Joaquin Buckley taking on Chris Curtis. I like Buckley in this matchup overall. I think he has several key advantages over Curtis that will get him the nod. He's younger. I think he's continuously improving. He's definitely the more explosive and athletic fighter of the two. And in regards to optics, as it relates to the judges, I think Buckley would be landing more of the impactful and flashy strikes. He's improving with each of his fights. He took a loss in his last fight, but you got to look at who he fought. He fought a really skilled and up-and-coming fighter in Imavov. But I thought he made a pretty good account of himself. And, he pushed himself in the third round of that fight. He won that round in 2 of the 3 judges' scorecards. So, Buckley has some wrestling upside, but I think this fight will largely play out on the feet. You have to give the durability edge to Curtis, but he's 35 years old, so this could be fading on his way out. Curtis seems to do well against fighters who are kind of plodding and less dynamic. He even lost a striking round to Rodolfo Vieira, which is not a good look. But I like the movement of Buckley in the octagon. So I think Buckley's going to land the harder shots here and sway the judges or even hurt Curtis, maybe even finish him. So the pick's going to be Buckley. The best bet is going to be Buckley on the money line, which can be found around minus 130. So next we have OSP taking on Anthony Tricoli. Tricoli's making his UFC debut. He's a younger fighter here, much, much less experience compared to OSP. Obviously, he's been around forever. This is lined at a pick'em currently. I'm gonna pick OSP here. Not a lot of confidence because he's such low volume. He doesn't tend to do well in fights that go to decision. But Tricoli, we haven't really seen anything from this guy overall. He won his Contender Series debut, but he popped for some sort of PED. I think it was steroids, so that's not a good look. Tricoli has fought at 170 in the past, even though he's like tall, he's like 6'5". He's fought at 170 in the past, but we know how big OSP is, and if this guy has fought at 170 in the past, you gotta favor OSP in just bulk and size. But OSP's old, man. Let's see how old he is. 39 years old, and he's slow. He usually starts off slow as well, and this guy Tricoli seems to be relatively tough, and he's been 5 rounds before. He's not a crazy finisher. So like I said, the pick's going to be OSP, but the best bet is going to be the over 1.5 rounds, assuming the total will be set there. Okay, Edmund Shabazian taking on Dalcha Lungiambula. This is going to be a quick breakdown. The pick's going to be Shabazian. Both guys, I think, are on a 3-fight losing streak. Let's take a look here. Well, let's take a look at the line first. I know Dalch is a big underdog. He is sitting at plus 245 with the comeback on Shabazian, minus 300 favorite. Yeah, both these guys are on a 3-fight losing streak, but you got to see who they're losing to. You know, Dalch is losing to Marc-André Barriault, Cody Brundage, and Punahele Soriano, whereas Shabazian is taking on much higher level competition, losing Derek Brunson, Jack Hermanson, and Nasruddin Imavov. I think that the UFC just wants, I think it's a good matchup for Shabazian. UFC just wants him to win here. He's tough. He tends to fade as well cardio-wise. I don't really know who has the better cardio. Maybe Dalcha Champion. It's tough to say though, but I just think that Shabazian's the more skilled fighter overall, and I think he finishes Dalcha. He's also 25 compared to Lungiambula, who's 35, so a 10-year age difference. So the pick's going to be Shabazian. The best bet's going to be under 2.5 rounds. Hopefully it's set there. I think that'd be an awesome spot to hit. I doubt it will be. It'll probably be set at 1.5. But maybe the under 2.5 is a parlay piece. I think Shabazian finished. Someone's getting finished, but I think Shabazian finishes Dalcha. Okay, Raul Rosas Jr. taking on Jay Perrin. Jay Perrin's a pretty big underdog. I've noticed some money coming in on him. Let's see, he's sitting at plus 200 to plus 210. Raul sitting at minus 240, minus 250 region. So it's going to be Raul's UFC debut. He was pretty impressive on the Contender Series, but I think it's tough to back a fighter coming off the Contender Series at such a steep price. So looking at Jay Perrin, he doesn't really excel anywhere, in my opinion, but he's well-rounded, he's durable, and he has good cardio. Rosas Jr. In his Contender Series debut looked really good in regards to his grappling, but then again, you know, it's against low-level competition. And we did see him on his Contender Series fight make mistakes, and he got reversed a couple of times in that bout. Perrin has shown the capacity to wrestle even late in fights. You know, he's not very fast, but he's definitely the more technical striker here. But in terms of Rosas Jr., what impressed me the most in his debut was that he was able to sustain such a high pace, even with all the grappling and the scrambles. He barely slowed down. You know, if he showed some cardio issues, then I would take a shot in Perrin here. Still debating it because I think this line's really wide, and I don't think Rosas Jr. has faced, you know, any good fighters yet. So the pick's going to be Rosas Jr. I think as a best bet, you have to take Perrin on the money line, being that this fight is so wide. I think the line should be a lot closer. If Rosas Jr. showed that he, you know, if he slowed down in his last fight and showed that he had some cardio issues, Perrin would definitely be the bet. But you know, he was able to put on that pace, which is good for him. So pick's gonna be Rosas Jr. Best bet Perrin on the money line. Okay. Next fight we have Chris Daukaus taking on Rosenstruik. I'm just gonna say Rosenstruik. This is also gonna be a pretty quick breakdown. My pick's gonna be Rosenstruik. The line is, let's see, Rosenstruik is a minus 180 favorite with Daukaus being a plus 155 dog. Yeah, I just think that Rosenstruik is the more durable fighter. Even though he's been knocked out twice, he was only knocked out cold by Francis Ngannou. Can't knock him for that. And then he got knocked out by Volkov. You know, he wasn't out cold or anything, but I thought the stoppage was okay. Like I said, I just think that Chris Daukaus isn't very durable. He's been knocked out 4 times, submitted once. He lost in all 5 of his losses. He might be the faster boxer in this matchup, and it's going to take place largely on the feet. He also has a high finish rate of 92%, all by knockout, 0 sub. I just like the striking of Rosenstruik, and I like the durability of him. So I'm going to take him here as the pick. The total will more than likely be set at 1.5 because Rosenstruik starts slow and sometimes he doesn't, you know, do much. I wouldn't take the under 1.5. I would take Rosenstruik by knockout. Hopefully, it will open up plus money because he can knock him out at any point in the fight. Okay, next we have Bryce Mitchell taking on Ilia Topuria. Really good fight here. Um, Mitchell is the underdog. He's about plus 130, plus 140, with Topuria sitting at, let's see, Best Fight Odds has this in the wrong spot. Topuria is about minus 150. So, I actually like Mitchell in this fight. I think he has a couple advantages, being size, grappling, and cardio. I think those are the three advantages he has in this fight that are going to get him the win. Topuria obviously will have the striking advantage and the power advantage, but Bryce is a durable guy. He's never been finished at all. Both these guys are undefeated, so they both have never been finished. But he's shown really good durability in the UFC so far. And I think he's fought the better guys in the UFC, and he looks to be continuing to improve. Even his last fight against Barboza, we saw some striking improvements. He knocked down Barboza. Bryce is also relentless when it comes to the wrestling, and I truly think he'll be able to out-grapple and control Topuria. We saw Topuria, it was a couple of years ago, but we saw him get reversed multiple times against a lower-level fighter in Zalal when he fought him early on his UFC. I think that was his UFC debut, actually. And I'm not saying that Topuria's cardio is bad, but in the second and third round, he definitely showed signs of slowing down. Whereas Bryce can push a heavy grappling pace, especially in the third round. So the pick's going to be Bryce Mitchell, and the bet's going to be Thug Nasty on the money line, which can be found plus 135 on Caesars. Next, we have Darren Till taking on Dricus du Plessis. I like du Plessis here. He's a big dude. I think that these fighters, if you take a look at them, well, let's look at the line first. I know du Plessis is the favorite. I think he's sitting around minus 140 with Darren Till as a plus 120 underdog. So what I was going to say was these guys are at two very different stages and trajectories in their careers right now. Take a look at Till. He's lost 4 of his last 5 fights, with the one win being a split against Kelvin Gastelum, whereas du Plessis is on a 5-fight winning streak. I mean, if you take a look at it, obviously du Plessis has fought much lower level of competition, but I like his well-roundedness, his finishing upside. He puts on a pace, his pace and output. I mean, he looked really tired after the first round in his last fight, but he was able to sustain a really high pace throughout the round 2 and round 3. And we saw Till in his last fight kind of look like a fish out of water against Brunson. Not saying du Plessis has the wrestling of Brunson, but he does go to the wrestling. And like I said, he's extremely big and he's strong. He kind of has like an awkward style and like randomly explodes with the barrage of punches, but it kind of just works for him. But this type of style does leave him open to counters, which Till may be able to capitalize on, but I don't think it's going to happen. Du Plessis has a 94% finish rate with more submissions than knockouts, even though the power is evident. I actually think du Plessis finishes Till inside of 2 rounds. So the pick's going to be du Plessis. Best bet is du Plessis on the money line, which can be found at minus 140 on DraftKings. Next up, we got like a vet matchup, taking Robbie Lawler taking on Santiago Ponzinibbio. Ponzinibbio is a big favorite, minus 380 on DraftKings. Lawler plus 310 on DraftKings. Pick here is going to be Ponzinibbio. He lost his last 2 matchups, but he fought high-level competition against guys that are on the up and up. Michel Pereira and Jeff Neal, lost 2 split decisions to them. He looked good in them, whereas Robbie Lawler, did not look. He actually looked decent in his last fight against Brian Barberena, but he ended up getting finished in that fight. I actually think that Ponzinibbio knocks him out in this fight. I don't think that the striking defense is where it was for Robbie Lawler, and the durability is just not where it was either. He was getting smacked in the face and stunned by a lot of the punches against Barberena. And although Ponzinibbio hasn't finished anyone recently, He's fought some durable guys. I mean, Jeff Neal, Michel Pereira, durable. He was able to knock out Neil Magny in 2018. And going back, he has a lot of knockdowns in the UFC. So I actually think that Ponzinibbio finishes um, Lawler by strikes at some point. So the pick's going to be Ponzinibbio. Best bet, you can go with Ponzinibbio by knockout, not released, obviously, or the 2.5, under 2.5 rounds, which I believe will be set at, but I don't see Lawler finishing Ponzinibbio. I mean, he could. He is dangerous. Or if you just like Ponzinibbio, you can use him as a parlay piece. I don't think that's a bad look either. Next, we have Paddy the Baddy Pimblett taking on Jared Gordon. The pick here is going to be Paddy Pimblett. He's 7 years younger. He has a 5-inch reach advantage. He's well-rounded. He's durable. He has solid cardio, and he looks to be continuously improving. He is the favorite, though, right now on DraftKings. He is at minus 184 with Gordon at plus 154. I'm actually surprised that Paddy the Baddy isn't like a bigger favorite given the recent hype all around him. So I'm surprised the line's not wider, but I do anticipate it's going to become wider as we get closer to fight time. I'm not one to typically jump on the hype train or the bandwagon, but I actually think Paddy's a solid fighter. He has a really good work rate. He's athletic, good power, really good grappling, and he doesn't settle. If you see his fights, he doesn't really settle on his back. He's always moving. Jared's also a really solid fighter. He does everything well, but his striking is overall, in my opinion, rudimentary. And we've actually seen he can be out-grappled and out-controlled on the mat. Paddy, on the other hand, doesn't have the best striking defense, but he's really durable, and Gordon's not really a threat on the feet. And if you look at Gordon, on the other hand, he's not durable. He's actually been finished in all 5 of his losses, 4 of them being by knockout. So I actually think it's a solid spot for Paddy the Baddy. And I mean, if you're looking at it, the UFC, he's a cash cow for the UFC. They want him to win, so they know what they're doing here. The pick's going to be Pimblett. The best bet is going to be Pimblett on the money line at minus 184, which can be found on FanDuel. All right, main event time. Jan Blachowicz taking on Magomed Ankalaev. Ankalaev's a decent favorite, currently sitting at, minus 230 on FanDuel, with Blachowicz sitting at plus 190 on FanDuel. I like Magomed in this spot. He's had future champ written all over him for a while now. I think he has a number of advantages over Jan, in my opinion. He's 9 years younger. He has a durability advantage, solid cardio, and he's just overall really well-rounded, really good defensive wrestling and grappling. And I think he has better ground control and is the fastest striker, in my opinion. So I think that most of this fight is going to take place on the feet. And I just think that Magomed's a better striker. Also, if some grappling happens, I think Ankalaev is more likely to take down Jan and control him and pepper him with ground strikes than the opposite. So in the UFC, no one really has been able to control Magomed on the ground, whereas we've seen Blachowicz get controlled and finished on the ground. You got to give the experience edge to Jan in regards to level of competition as well, and the jiu-jitsu advantage. But I don't think that these advantages weigh nearly as much as the ones that Magomed have. I actually think that this fight's going to make the later rounds, the championship rounds, in 4 or 5. But I could see a late finish for Ankalaev or a decision for him. So pick's going to be Ankalaev. Best bet for me is going to be Ankalaev on the money line, or even the over 2.5 rounds, which I believe will be set around there. If it's set there, that's not a bad look either. So that is it. 14 fights. Looking back, I picked a lot of favorites on this card, but sometimes that's just how it goes, especially on these pay-per-view cards. I feel like a lot of the favorites win, not to be superstitious, but I feel like they're typically lined correctly. All right, so if you like the video and the content, please like it and subscribe to the channel. Even throw in a comment below and share your own picks and thoughts on the fights. All right, good luck.